This review has been made possible by Toyota of Naperville. As you know, Toyota has tons of brand new Toyotas available for purchase, but did you know that they also have a remarkable selection of used cars? Head on over to toyotaofnaperville.com and look through hundreds of used cars for sale right now.
Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2013 Chevy Captiva Sport. Up front is a 2.4 liter inline 4 and down below is a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now I'm super excited to be driving this here Captiva because this car actually wasn't originally available for sale. The Captiva Sport was only ever available in 2014 and 2013 as a fleet vehicle, meaning the average person couldn't just walk into a Chevy dealer and drive off the lot in one of these. You had to be a fleet customer. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later on. This is kind of special in a way. But let's get back to that 2.4 liter inline 4. It is an Ecotec engine, same engine I used to have in my Pontiac G6. And while it's not the coolest, hippest, happiest engine, I never had really too many issues with my Ecotec. My G6 went 193,000 miles before I sold it, and through my research, that engine is still going to this day with probably well over 200,000 miles on it. So the Ecotecs are pretty stout motors. They're just not the coolest thing. They're not the hippest thing. They'll probably burn a little bit of oil, but I mean, at 200,000 miles, I would too. Horsepower and torque is up on the screen for the Captiva if you are interested. However, there was a 3.2 liter V6 offered in one of these that made a lot more power, and you could find that overseas. Like I said, paired to it is a little automatic transmission. It's fine, it's shifting, it does the job. It's a little hesitant here and there, but again, this is a fleet transmission, so it's to be expected. Last but not least, of course, the Captiva Sport is front-wheel drive. So let's talk about the interior. Arguably not a whole lot in here, but some interesting features nevertheless. In front of me, I have three main gauges. On the left is my tachometer, in the center is my fuel, and on the right is my speedometer. Something that is vacant is my temperature. I don't have a dedicated gauge for my temperature. However, that little screen in the center, I can switch to show my temperature. I have tons of different things that I'm showing right now on the screen that I can select through in that little readout. Again, I always say Chevy and GM, very, very good at giving you a lot of information in these tiny little screens. The issue I have with it is that coolant temperature, when I do select it, just shows up as a digit. For instance, right now it's at 185 degrees. Is that hot? Is that cold for the car? Is that, I don't know. All cars are different, and being a car enthusiast, I have some type of idea of 186 degrees is usually pretty good. 215 is usually sort of a rough spot for a lot of cars. On the steering wheel on the left, I have my cruise control options, and on the right, I have my volume and my phone options. Now, the steering wheel itself, this is where you first start to notice that this is really a global car. Right now, I'm driving the Chevy Captiva Sport, but it was also sold as the Saturn Vue. Overseas, it was also sold as a Holden. It was sold as an Opel, and it was even sold as a Daewoo. And the reason that's noticeable on the steering wheel is because the Chevy logo is just a circle, so they could easily swap it out between cars. Just put an Opel circle, put a Holden circle, put a Saturn badge in a circle. And it is a very cheap steering wheel. To the left of me, I have headlight switches and fog lights, which interestingly enough has this like fake blacked out wood looking, I guess, panel, which is interesting. And then I have my buttons for that center gauge screen so I can switch between, information and checks and things like that. On the door, I have my power locks, power mirrors, as well as power windows. Now the driver's window is one touch down, which is very nice. However, it is not one touch back up, which for a rental car seems to be par for the course. Moving into the center, I have three climate control vents and my radio. I've driven a Silverado with this radio. I've driven a Malibu with this radio. It's a fine radio. I do have CD and aux, which is very nice, but very run-of-the-mill, very basic, and pretty much any Chevy you drive from this era is going to have this radio or something very similar. Down below that, I do have a row of buttons, which is interesting. I have my rear wiper, which has its own sprayer, as you're seeing, as well as just the button for the wiper without the sprayers. Traction control off, which I don't know who in their right mind would ever turn the traction control off in a car like this. Unless they were at gunpoint, I don't see it happening. And then I I have my giant hazard button, really making a statement here with the hazard button. Then we have the climate controls. I have fan speed, temperature, and where to send it, as well as recirculating and pulling outside air, and that is it. I do have auto, which is nice, but no dual zone or anything of that nature. Then I get a little cubby, and then we move on to the center console. I have the shifter, which is interesting because it has park, reverse, neutral drive, and manual. However, in between park and reverse, there's a little brake icon showing that you have to hit the brakes in order to shift gears. Now, usually this is pretty much common sense that you have to depress the brake in order to switch gears, but the Captiva actually shows you that. I don't know if maybe that's a foreign market thing and they just left it in or what have you, but there it is. Then I have a power parking brake down at the very bottom, and we have our cup holders. So we'll do a big friggin' bottle test here with the cup holders, and obviously the big friggin' bottle does not fit in these cup holders, which is a shame. If I were to rent one of these from an airport, I want to bring my big friggin' bottle with, but alas, it fails. However, the cup holders do have a slight little party trick. There's a button that says push, and when you push it down, you can move the cup holders forward and back to reveal a little storage area. This is very nice, and this is the start of the era where Chevy started putting secret little storage compartments in their vehicles, like the C7 Corvette and the Chevy Tahoe. However, it's not that secret. Before we get on with the rest of the review, I want to give a huge thank you to Fixed. Fixed is a Bluetooth OBD2 sensor for your car. You can plug it into any OBD2 vehicle, which is a vehicle manufactured after 1996, and you can take a look at your gauges, you can keep an eye on your temperature, you can see your speed, you can time your 0 to 60. There's tons of really cool features that will pair directly to your smartphone, and it gives you great insight on your vehicles. Fixed is giving my viewers a hefty discount, so click the link in the description below, get your own Fixed OBD2 Bluetooth sensor, and start learning more about your car. Now the seats are hard. They're hard. They're not super comfortable. After an hour or two of driving, they do start to wear on you a little bit. They are hard economy, cheap seats. Do they work? Yes. Do they have seat belts? Yes. Are they technically, by definition, a chair? Yes. However, they are not comfortable, nor do I enjoy them, and that is that. But speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. So we're in the back of the 2013 Chevy Captiva Sport, and it's exactly what I expected. The seats are hard. They're not very comfortable. I do get a center console here, 2 cup holders, and I do actually get a 12-volt outlet down below, which is actually really nice, and my 2019 Mazda 3 hatchback doesn't even have a 12-volt outlet for the back seat. So that is kind of nice. However, the seats are not that comfortable. Knee room is okay for the size of the car. Again, this is my seating position. I could probably be nice and scoot up a little bit. However, not much really to report back here. But let's go hop around back, take a look at the cargo space in case you rent one on your next Florida trip. All right, so around the back of the Captiva, little button down here. And actually, ton of space, like a lot of space, which is great, obviously, for a rental car. A lot of space back here. I love that. And I do get a 12-volt outlet back here. I'm honestly really impressed with this cargo space. Again, you can flip these seats down. And I mean, look at that. Look at all that space. Screw renting a U-Haul. Rent one of these bad boys. I also do have this compartment, obviously, just you can put some little stuff down here or whatever. However, something I haven't seen before is these little lock switches to lock and unlock this little compartment. I don't know why you would want to lock it, and honestly, it's not that locking. But I don't know why you'd want to lock it. I don't know if you'd keep your valuables down there and whatnot, but you can do that if you'd like. Now we got to talk about the looks. I think that this is actually a decent looking SUV. And the reason I think I say that is because you just don't see these all that much. You see the Saturn versions, I think, a little bit more than these Captivas, again, because these were fleet vehicles, and I think this is a well-proportioned, handsome-looking vehicle. They're cheap, it's inexpensive, and it looks that way. However, let's get on to my final thoughts about this here Captiva. Well, let's talk more about how you can't buy these. Now you can. Now, after years and years and years, these have become available for public purchase. But back in the day, back in 2013, when this car was new, Like I said, you could not walk into a Chevy dealer and walk out with a Chevy Captiva Sport if you were just a regular guy. So this was only sold to rental car companies or large companies that needed a fleet of vehicles. This car was not meant to be sold and was never sold as just a car. This was sold in groups of 5, groups of 10, groups of 20. A company would come to Chevy and say, hey, we need 30 cars, and Chevy would send 30 Captiva Sports to your corporate address. And so I find it fascinating now driving this car, knowing that it was only meant for rental purposes. I don't know why, just driving a car that wasn't meant for public consumption is very interesting to me. And so when I saw this on Toyota of Naperville's lot, I knew I had to drive it because I hadn't seen a Captiva in years and years and years, and this is probably the one and only time I will ever drive one. These are long out of service with rental cars. That's why they're in the private domain now. You can go to Toyota of Naperville and buy this exact car. Especially because of COVID, most rental companies sold a majority of their vehicles just to stay afloat. And so a lot of rental cars joined the used car market. But with most rental cars, it's like a Ford Fusion or a Nissan Altima, and we could all buy those. That's not that special. But this car, we couldn't buy. And actually, interestingly enough, they still sell the Captiva around the world. Again, like I said, this car goes by many names and goes under a lot of different badges. Up until GM canceled Holden, you could buy this as a Holden. You could buy this as an Opel, which that's really the original version of this car, was the Opel. But down in Mexico, you can actually buy a 2022 Chevy Captiva brand new, and it looks brand new too. It's not the same old car. So it's just so fascinating to me driving something that A, wasn't ever really available for private purchase, but also B, something that was so insignificant here, so overlooked here in the States, but so important and more popular worldwide. Because of COVID, I haven't been able to travel to the countries I've wanted to go to. Believe me, soon I will be traveling worldwide yet again. But driving this car, I get a little sense of that, a little flavor of that. This is what it's like to drive an Opel, a company I've never reviewed a car from. This is what it's like to buy a crossover down in Mexico, a country I've never been to, but I would like to visit soon. This is a worldwide car. I don't know. I'm going to keep going on about it, but I think it's just so interesting. All that aside, is this a good car? It's a rental car. Would I buy this? Maybe for a kid. Maybe for, my son or daughter. They're just getting their license. It has pretty low horsepower. It has good visibility. It has enough infotainment so they can plug their phones in, but they're not going to be distracted by a screen. For a kid, I think this is a very, very good car to buy them as a first car or a college car or something of the sort. But would I personally buy it as a car enthusiast? No, but I really wasn't expecting that. So there it is, the Chevy Captiva Sport. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Toyota of Naperville for letting me take out their Chevy Captiva Sport. This was such a cool experience. If you guys want to buy this Chevy Captiva Sport, their information is up on the screen as well as linked in the description below. Toyota of Naperville is buying your cars without the need of selling you another one. So if you want to sell your car, but you don't want to buy a Toyota or buy anything from Toyota of Naperville, that's fine. They're just buying cars right now, which is fantastic and really, really helpful. So if you do want to sell your vehicle, also look into Toyota of Naperville. They're absolutely awesome. We've been working together for, oh wow, coming up on 3 years. Wow, that's crazy. Absolutely awesome, great customer service, and you won't regret visiting them. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.